Jackie Chan.
Here we go. Here we go with the intro. Here goes the intro for the first time. We have not started this prior.
And
I
so
just sat
happy.
down. I haven't even been here. Oh my god. Oh, I just got to stretch it out for the show. Get it ready.
Cheers.
What if I smile like that? What if that was my smile?
I would be concerned, and our friendship would be questioned.
Hey, here's a little sneak preview of something we're going to be talking about.
Why?
Because we have a segment where
Robert
Bob
watched it.
gets way down the hole.
That's right.
Because we have
Way
a
down.
segment.
I forgot that. Yeah, you got rid of that original one. Damn it.
Bob gets way down in the hole.
The song called "Bob Gets Way Down in the Hole."
Way down.
We're right.
What up, nerds? Welcome to a very repetitive episode of Straight Chilling. My name is Bob, and I'll be your host for the evening. This is episode number 229, recorded on Sunday, August 25th, 2019. Tonight, we're going to be talking about the August winner of the poll pick, Army of Darkness. Before we get into the review, let me introduce everyone else on the show. First up, calling in from Southern Korea, we got our boy Soju Stains. What's up, Soju?
What up? It's your boy, Mr. Hotcakes. And no, I'm not talking about these hot buns, ladies.
Oh my god. How many
Holy
times
shit.
am I going to hear Justin make that joke?
This is now the third time.
The third time he has
This is
made
the
that
third
same
reason.
very bad joke.
Dude, I am using this joke.
Yeah, we're clear on.
Last but not least, calling in from outdoors Chicago, Randy Gandy Landy.
You purposely fucked it up again?
I know, I did.
We're here for the
Fuck it.
authenticity. You fucked that up last time and just felt compelled to do it again. I love it. Great.
So everyone knows this is legit our third time attempting to record this episode.
Each time it keeps getting worse.
Army of Darkness must be cursed. It's cursed,
It is.
I tell you.
Yeah,
Mr. Hotcakes has got some hot takes for you.
Oh
We got-
boy.
we got the curse.
Yeah, I'm in Chicago.
How rude of me. We do have a special guest on the show tonight I forgot to introduce the last two times, so that's probably why we've been cursed this episode. We're also joined by the one, the only Bruce Campbell on the show tonight. Yes, hail to the king. Here we go.
Hail to the king.
So guess what?
Yes.
Guess what?
What?
We have to pause.
Are you?
We have to pause. I have to move my computer.
Okay, that's fine.
Okay.
Just do it.
Keep it rolling, baby. It's fun.
Yeah, I'm not stopping it.
That's
I'm
fine.
not stopping it.
Okay, so let's go ahead and tackle some housekeeping. All right, so just a quick reminder, our September poll pick is posted on our Patreon website. If you support us at the $5 level or above, you get the chance to vote on a movie we're going to be talking about next month. The theme for next month is witches. And the movies you can vote on are Haxan, The Craft, and The Witches.
I'm going to make a bold prediction and say The Craft is far ahead and will probably win.
You know, I don't know how, but you nailed it. That is exactly
There's no
correct.
other way I could know this except that we've done it twice previously.
You know what? You've got a really good memory.
Yeah.
Just a
So
killer
the craft is winning approximately by 50%, if I recall correctly what Bob said 10 minutes ago.
Yep, that is correct. So you have until next Sunday to vote on that. Go ahead and cast your votes. Ladies and gents, don't miss the opportunity. Also, we're going to go ahead and announce now that next Sunday, September 1st at noon, we are officially going to open the You Pick the Flick tier, which is obviously where you pick a movie and we review it. There's only 5 spots.
Obviously,
open.
Bob, we need to explain.
I mean, it's kind of obvious. There's only 5 spots quarterly, which is kind of how we've been doing it. So these 5 movies we're going to be talking about in the months of October, November, and December. So this is going to be the last time you have the opportunity to pick a movie for us to talk about this year. So get on it.
You can pick Ghost if you want. I know you people are clamoring to pick Ghost.
Starring Patrick Swayze. If somebody pick Ghost and make Justin's year.
The Scream Queen, Patrick Swayze.
Oh, he's got great tits, doesn't he?
Whoa.
What did I walk into
Yeah.
here?
Also,
They're yabos around here. Okay. We're a family friendly cast around here. We use the term yabos.
Deeply inaccurate.
sorry, he's got great yabos.
Thank you.
So something new we're also adding to the You Pick the Flick tier is Randy designed some super dope stickers that Justin would love to tell you guys about.
I would love to tell you, and I have
Take
all
it.
the details for you.
All
So,
the deets.
Randy Gandy G. Landy has designed this beautiful sticker because he's our in-house graphic designer, of course. And it is in the shape of a VHS tape. And what you're going to get if you pick a You Pick tier, what is it called? You Pick the Flick? Yeah, You Pick the Flick. So, YouTube exclusive, it says Straight Chillin', You Pick the Flick. Title. So this is an example. The Loved Ones, episode number 171, date July 17th, 2018. Your name, Jess, and the overall score, which in this case was a 3.4 out of 5. StraightChillingPodcast.com at the bottom. That is a dope looking sticker, Randy. So Rob will be sending out stickers for all our previous You Pick the Flick supporters, and you will also be getting one if you sign up, of course, as a new Patreon or if you pick again. And Bob is keeping one for himself. Bob, what are you doing with all those stickers that you're keeping?
Yeah, so what I'm doing is I'm sort of making a duplicate sticker of all the ones I'm mailing to you guys, and I'm gonna frame them. So I'm gonna have a frame with class of 2018. All the people that picked the movie last year is gonna be in one frame. Then once we finish this year, I'll have a 2019 frame. And
The archive.
2020, I'll have another frame. Yeah.
Yeah, you're making the wall.
Yeah, exactly.
It's the Disney vault of this show.
Yeah. So it's sort of like a pretty personalized sticker. There's only 2 like them in the world. One's going to you guys. One we're gonna keep for sort of our wall of fame or wall of shame or whatever you want to call it. So all the people that have picked a movie for us to review in the past year and a half or so since we started doing this on Patreon, I'm going to be mailing you a sticker. I have most of your addresses, and I'm going to be putting those in the mail tomorrow. There are a handful of you that I don't have your address, so if you do want your sticker, please just contact us, whether it be through our email address or one of our social media platforms. Just send me your preferred mailing address, and I'll make sure to get your sticker in the mail. But I need a mailing address for Jess. I need one for Chad. I need one for Chris. I need one for Thomas. I need one for Matthew. And, of course, Becky, Randy. So I need to know where you live.
You will never know our
Tell
address.
me right now. Cast it.
Right now.
You will never
Right
achieve
now.
our address. We will remain a cryptic ghost as far as you're concerned.
I guess it wouldn't matter. You're going to be gone like a week anyways.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah, you're not gonna be there.
We're on the lam, bish.
I'll also make sure to post a picture of those stickers on Instagram and Twitter and all that stuff, so you guys can kind of see what they look like. They're super dope, actually. Randy, you do good work, obviously. So thanks for being part of the team.
Way to go, Randy.
Also, something new we're kind of rolling out. We've got some really great enamel pins made with our logo on there, and we're trying to figure out how to get those to you guys, and we didn't really want to open up a brand new Patreon tier just for them. So what we're gonna do is anybody who's supported us on Patreon for a year, we're gonna send you one of those enamel pins in the mail. So there's a handful that are gonna be going out. I'm gonna put those in the mail tomorrow as well. And I do need some addresses for those. I need one for Chad, which I think I already mentioned for the sticker as well. And I need one for David. So if you guys want your enamel pins, please contact us. Drop your preferred mailing address, and I'll make sure to get you an enamel pin in the mail.
Thank you guys who are in this club for continuing to support us, by the way.
Yes, 1 year, and all these are bonuses. So we always like to give back to our patrons. Thank you so much for supporting us.
Over here.
Yeah. Whoa, I didn't say boners.
Yeah,
no, I mistranslated what you said intentionally.
That is super duper cool of anybody to support us for. I mean, much less a month for sure, but a whole year. That's incredible. So thank you, big thank you. Hopefully you guys dig the pins. I think they look pretty cool. Randy, you also did a great job designing those fucking enamel pins.
Oh, keep going, please.
Thanks for being on the team.
Yeah.
And that new hashtag Hard With Us t-shirt,
Right,
Randy,
yeah.
which is now available on TeePublic. Are they still on sale? They were like 35% off, like
They were-
yesterday, maybe, or something.
Yeah, that was like a flash sale. I don't think they're on sale anymore. But
I think they
do
might
those-
be.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
I'm
Okay.
checking now, but I thought I
Okay.
saw that they were still. I might be wrong, but yeah, it looks like they're still on sale from what I can
Hey,
see.
still on
Sweet.
sale.
They have
Alright.
pretty frequent sales on TeePublic anyway,
They
but
do.
yeah, get yours while you can at
Yeah.
a discounted price for
That's
sure.
a good chunk of change, 35% off.
It
Yeah.
is. So, I mean, that those savings are just passed directly onto you, the consumer. I mean, my God, what an amazing deal!
We're
Corporate.
learning how to become salesmen, politicians.
Guys, I went to a seminar this weekend, and I can safely say that I am ready to be your businessman.
Businessman Gandhi over here. Juice, I believe we have some YouTube and Twitch news.
Yeah, so we are still playing video games on Twitch. If you tuned in last week, you saw we were not playing Hello Neighbor. In fact, we played Friday the 13th with your boy Bobby Jarvis once again. Bob, did you kill anybody that time? I know he escaped most of
Yeah,
us.
I killed one person. I obviously just don't know how to play video games because I kept grabbing people and then just holding on to them and
That's
not
true.
murdering them. And
Bob
then they'd
had
get
not
away.
assigned any of his kill slots, so he should have been hacking at us. But
Yeah.
there are some like automated kills where you can do like the sweet animations. But Bob hadn't assigned any, so he's just clicking an empty button
Yeah, I
trying
was
to
just
kill.
Oh,
slamming
Bobby.
buttons.
Oh, Bobby.
Just yelling at the clouds.
You know what's
"Die!"
what's the worst thing about all this for me is that I would love to play with you guys, and I do have access to Friday the 13th, the game. It's on a
Ah.
Switch though, and I cannot play. So like, if I were to buy that game, I would just be like sadly slashing co-eds on my own
Yeah.
time with no friends.
Damn
It sucks.
cross-platform
Fucking
limitations.
bullshit.
Yeah.
But Bobby Jarvis has a secret project he's going to be working on tomorrow night. So there are some open slots. So this will probably be your last. This is our last planned Friday the 13th gameplay. So if you would like to play, I will announce it on Instagram. That's my social platform of choice these days. If you want to play, put your gamer tag on there and I'll add you until the slots fill up pretty much. We have, let's see, we'll play Monday night at 8 p.m. Eastern time. So if you are available Monday night, 8 p.m. Eastern time, you have an Xbox, we're playing on Xbox, put your gamer tag on Instagram and I will add you and you can play with the hashtag Hard With Us crew playing some Friday the 13th. So this will be our last planned one because next month starts in a week. And we'll be playing a new video game, which I guess I'll announce next week.
Yeah. Cool. Lots of new stuff. So yeah, I think that pretty much covers all the housekeeping actually.
House is clean.
Whoa. Oh, I forgot to mention. I always forget to mention this. I'm a terrible, terrible salesman. I need to hire Randy Gandy G Landy business.
Yes, you do. And let me tell you the 6 units of reason why. No, go ahead.
If you want to watch us on Twitch, you can tune in live at twitch.tv/Straight Chilling Podcast. Thank you, Randy.
You are welcome.
G Landy Incorporated. All right, let's go ahead and talk about what we've been watching this week. Hey, Randy, what you been watching?
Whew, this is another week where I haven't been watching too much of great substance, just the odd episode of like a Jeopardy or some such. I did get to go to a music festival or a day of it yesterday at the 350 Fest, which is put on by a brewing company called 350 Brewing Company here in the suburbs of Chicago. And several of bands that I really, really love, including one that I am deeply in love with called The Menzingers played. And they had The Menzingers, they had Iron Chic, We Are the Union, a lot of people that I am familiar with from going to the fest in Florida, in Gainesville. And I love them. I loved it. I had a great time. I deeply recommend listening to The Menzingers' new singles. They have a new song. Somehow they always hit exactly like the feeling that I'm having in their lyrics right when they release it. They have a song that came out called America, You're Freaking Me Out. And yeah, it's as good as it sounds. And let's see what else. Becky has been an avid fan of Orange is the New Black, which I haven't kept up with greatly, but I did watch the last few episodes. and they're pretty fucking heartbreaking in their own way. They have a little bit of hope at the end, but it's a pretty sad state of affair because a lot of that stuff is based in reality, private prison complex and all that shit. So I've been slowly working my way through Mindhunter. It's been going great. I love it, and I don't really want to comment more on it until I probably finish it up. But other than that, there's one other thing that I watched, which is kind of like pretty heavy. So stand by for some heaviness here. There's a documentary on Netflix called Life Overtakes Me, and I think it's new, which I watched. It's like 40 minutes long, and it's about these refugees. You know how Sweden has taken in a lot of refugees during this crisis that's been happening. Well, a lot of kids, like over 200 kids, I think they said, have been diagnosed with this thing called resignation syndrome, which is basically like after a big traumatic event, like being in a situation where your parents are getting beaten up and murdered and raped and so forth, and escaping that, and then going to a country where your like ability to stay there is constantly undermined, and you're not really sure if you're going to be able to stay there or if you're going to be sent back. These kids develop this situation where basically it's like being in a comatose state. Like they just lie there. They're not completely asleep or anything. Like their eyes flutter and they can almost look around, but they just don't respond to anything naturally. And so far, the only thing that, like at least according to this documentary, the only thing that has brought kids out of this is it's the absence of hope that keeps them there. Literally, it's a psychological thing where if you tell them that, like in one girl's case, the truth that you've been accepted into your new country and you're not going to be thrown back to the wolves, so to speak, then they start to slowly sort of come out of this thing. It's like physically manifested hopelessness in children, and it's happening a lot. So, like I said, extremely heavy.
That's awful.
And extremely enlightening and awful. But yeah, it's a good fucking documentary. It really like kind of blew my mind. So I wanted to bring that one up for that reason. Sorry.
Cool.
I'm sorry, everyone.
Is there anything else? Or?
The Menzingers, great song.
Yeah, I dig on that song. Juice, what have you been watching, sir?
So last night I'm really tired this morning because I just had to finish Mindhunter. It got into one of the, which hasn't happened in a while. Like I have to finish the show, but I don't know. I think there's 9 episodes total in the newest season, and I probably started last night, maybe episode 6. So maybe I watched 3 hours worth of it, and actually sometimes they're a little longer than an hour. I'm not sure what the season finale was, but it was I think I ended around 2 a.m. I was like, God damn, I got to get up in 5 hours to do the cast. But yeah, I finished that one, and it was really great. It was weird because I found myself really sympathizing with Holden. And that's weird based on kind of last season. He was such a pompous kind of asshole or whatever. But the things that happened to him in this season, I was just man, that would really chap my ass, or that I don't know. I found myself really relating to him or sympathizing with his position. And so
Smug asshole.
No, just that she has to deal with. But
yeah.
It's good, man. It was a good season, and I really enjoyed that show. And they were already kind of setting up, I guess, next season, which is exciting. They're kind of teasing for next season. So I'm sure that's already in the works.
I just can't wait. I just want to watch more Tench. Just show me Tench all the time. That is a fun character to watch do his thing.
Yeah. So they did a great job. Like you're saying, we got to see Manson this season and Son of Sam, and it's just I don't know. The acting is great in this movie, and the casting and everything is great. So that's mainly what I've been watching. I'm excited. The new posters already came in for It. So I'm already, it's a couple weeks away, but I was just oh my God, because there hasn't been much out, at least in Korea, in movie theaters. I haven't been to the theaters in a while. So I got the new It posters out. So that'll be coming up for a poster giveaway when we cover It or whatever. Tune in for that. But I'm excited. Get back in the theater. Spooky season. It's official. All right. Here we go.
It's happening.
Woo. It's really happening.
It's really happening.
It's the season for teasing. My nephew told me today, he's 8, and he wants to go as Pennywise for Halloween.
Nice.
I was very stoked. He's not seen the movies because he's 8, but he just sees the
That's good.
commercials. He sees the commercials on TV and stuff, and he's like, "What do you know about Pennywise?" He's like, "Yeah." I was like, "Yeah, I know." He's like,
Yeah.
You know Pennywise?" I was like, "Yeah." He's like, "Oh, how?"
Of course.
Yes. This is how the show works.
Bob's
Hey,
Hey,
welcome back
Bob.
There you are.
Alright.
had a little private show for a minute there.
Okay. So let me talk about what I've been watching now, I guess.
Hang on, real quick. You were talking about a little Pennywise. When I first came to Korea, it was 2017, and that's when the first It came out. And at my first Halloween festival I attended here in Korea, there was legit, I have a picture of it somewhere. Maybe I'll throw it up on the Instagram. Like a baby Pennywise. I mean, she was probably maybe like 2, but she was like on her dad's shoulders at this like Halloween festival. And it's like so fucking precious, but she's fucking Pennywise the clown,
Nice.
which is dope as shit. But yeah, it's just like super adorable. It's just like tiny little Pennywise. But so yeah, I'll throw that up.
Cool. Yeah, I finished Mindhunter last season, or last week rather. It's great. I won't continue on because everybody else has already gushed. But I did a bit of a double feature with Mikey on Friday. We watched Ghost House and Witchery. Which is like a Witchery. It's a double feature that was put out by Scream Factory a little while ago. And something interesting about these is they're Italian productions, and they were released in Italy. Ghost House was called La Casa 3 and Witchery was La Casa 4. And they were like unofficial sequels to the first 2 Evil Dead movies, which were La Casa 1 and La Casa 2 in Italy. So they came out right before the Army of Darkness movie came out in America. And Italy back in the day was a country that just did not give much of a shit about like rights at all. They would just make sequels to American movies. So that's one of these situations here. Ghost House, and to be clear, like these are pretty much unrecognizable as Evil Dead movies in any way. But Ghost House was pretty great. It's like hilariously Italian. For some reason, like Italian movies like to pretend that they're set in Boston. I don't know why that is. But Ghost House is like set in Boston. There's this guy like operating a ham radio, and he picks up this frequency, and like somebody's like screaming for help, and he somehow traces where it came from, and it's this old spooky house, and they roll up in there, and it's haunted, of course, by this little girl and this like evil looking clown doll, a la, Poltergeist clown doll. And they just start murdering people. It's good. Witchery actually has Linda Blair and David Hasselhoff in it.
What?
Which is a weird cast. But it's largely nonsensical and not particularly interesting in any way.
Great.
Yeah.
There are 7 La Casa movies.
Holy shit.
I'm looking this up now.
I gotta
they're
watch
all
the rest.
other movies.
Yeah, that makes sense. I also watched the first episode of that new Danny McBride HBO series called The Righteous Gemstones.
Oh, how's that?
It's great. The first episode is great. I really, really enjoyed it. It's hilarious and disgusting, and Danny McBride is just a massive piece of shit like he usually is. So if you like his brand of humor and like, if you like Vice Principals or Eastbound and Down, you'll probably get a kick out of this. Also,
as long as it's not in a Halloween movie.
Oh, yeah, Justin, don't watch it because obviously you don't appreciate his brand.
I love Danny McBride and I love his type of humor. I don't want to force into my Halloween movies, but I like it.
The last thing I want to mention is I watched a couple episodes of the What We Do in the Shadows TV series. That full season is now on Hulu if you're interested in watching it. That show it's so much better than I feel like it should be. Like it's like really like every episode is like super fresh and like kind of differentiates itself. And like they introduce these new characters, and there's this one episode where they pull in like vampires from other properties, and they like Skype Wesley Snipes because he was in Blade. It's super funny, and I haven't finished the season yet, but from what I've seen, I super highly recommend you check it out, especially if you like the movie. It's hilarious. It's good stuff.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah. But that's pretty much all I've been watching this week. Let's go ahead and get into the main event, talk about Army of Darkness, and kick it off with the back of the box. What's on the back of the box? So we've got Army of Darkness from 1992. Directed by Sam Raimi, written by Sam Raimi and Ivan Raimi. The synopsis is as follows. Bruce Campbell, Ash, played by Bruce Campbell, is accidentally transported to 1300 AD, where he must battle an army of the dead and retrieve the Necronomicon so he can return home.
Whoa.
So, have you guys seen this movie before? What is your relationship with this movie, and would you recommend people check it out? Randy, why don't you kick us off?
Have we seen this before? Get out of here.
Well, I know you have.
Yes, I have seen this film before. I do recommend it for horror purists. It's necessary viewing, I think. And, I mean, if you want to watch Bruce Campbell, this is a good damn movie to watch, because this is just Bruce Campbell just hamming it as hard as he can in any direction he can. He just hams it up real good. So yeah, if that's your jam, check it out for sure. I can't think of a great reason for any horror fan not to watch this. You just kind of gotta watch it. You just gotta watch it.
You gotta watch it. Juice, what about you?
Mr. Hotcakes has some hot takes today, boys, because this was my pick, so I won the poll pick.
Okay,
course.
We get it.
And,
unsatisfied for that level of attention you're affording yourself. You need
and
more.
The reason I picked this is because I had never seen this movie before, and I think it's going to be an interesting episode because so much this movie has such a reputation, and I had never seen Evil Dead 2 before we covered it on this cast. It's been 4 years now, and part of it was that intrigue of when we watched Evil Dead 2, that also has a huge reputation, and at the time we had just started the cast pretty much, but I wasn't about it that much. And then recently, I guess maybe end of last year, I tried to watch that Ash vs. the Evil Dead show and was even saying on this show, man, I can't really get into this very much. The humor is not really for me. I'm not really digging it, but everybody says oh, this is a great thing. So I was like, man, Army of Darkness is this classic that kind of continues along, this franchise, and I've never seen it before, and I was like, we need to cover it on the cast, and I need to talk about it from a standpoint that's not a nostalgia standpoint, and I think that's going to be interesting. Maybe people are going to tear me apart once this episode is finished, but
now they are.
Well, yeah, but you can't, I don't know, you can't stop the juice, the juice.
Lord knows you tried. Just talk to OJ about that shit.
So I had never seen this movie before. I don't agree that it's a necessary watch for horror fans. I mean, it has a reputation. And that was mainly my intrigue, is I had to watch it because of the reputation. But if you didn't grow up with this film, I definitely don't think it's a necessary viewing for horror fans. In fact, part of my thing is going to be, is this even a horror movie?
Right, yeah. Well, that's all very interesting to hear, Justin. Yeah,
Sure.
I've seen this movie a handful of times before, and I think my first exposure to it, as well as kind of all the Evil Dead movies, was they used to play on the Sci-Fi Channel, and my dad was always watching Sci-Fi, so it would just sort of be on in the background when I was a kid, running around the house, and I'd see bits of it here and there. And my dad would be laughing, and there'd be blood and guts on the screen. I was like, how is this funny to any human being?
Yeah.
This is weird. But now I get a kick out of all the movies. I get it. You grow up and you get the humor of it. So yeah, I don't know. I think the Evil Dead trilogy is in its entirety is definitely sort of required viewing. Even if it's not totally your bag, I think it's worth watching all of them at least once. Even Army of Darkness here, which is definitely more of a comedy than it is anything else. But we can continue on with that conversation. So yeah, I definitely recommend it. And I'm going to go ahead and drop that spoiler warning in case you haven't seen this movie previously. And we'll get into it. Here we go. All right, Justin. Here we go again.
Well, okay. Well, honestly, I was having these as I was watching this movie for the first time and not really knowing honestly much about it, except for I knew it was like a medieval setting. So that was something that intrigued me as well, because I was like, what the? Because I'd seen Evil Dead 2 when we covered it. And there's just not a lot of horror movies in general covered from, that time period or that setting.
Yeah.
So
Black
that was
Death is the only one I can
intriguing.
think of.
The thing is, watching this whole movie, I was just kept having flashbacks. Honestly, it's weird to like kind of mention, but of our Jurassic Park episode, to the point to where I was like, this is not a horror movie, because I was on the other end of the Jurassic Park argument where we were like, is it a horror movie? And my whole argument was like, okay, Jaws is considered this horror classic, and what's the big difference? And we talked about the score. The score in Jaws is like specifically set to like horror, where it builds the tension and everything, whereas Jurassic Park is more built around kind of like this adventure, this big tempo kind of score, and it like, dude, the score in this is a fantasy comedy movie, and the score even supports that. Like, if you're saying like Jurassic Park is not a horror movie, it's adventure, this like saying that this is a horror movie, there is nothing more horror in this movie that can't be found in like a Lord of the Rings type movie or something. This is a fantasy or even the thing that kept like reminding me of this movie was Princess Bride. I was like, oh my God, this is like right around kind of like a Princess Bride kind of thing. And they even had some disturbing like creatures in Princess Bride and themes and stuff like that too. And I was like, this is not this, to me, like just taking it at flat value, this is not a horror movie. This is a fantasy comedy. And and the score supports that. Like everything supports that. So this like horror classic, especially when Jurassic Park's not, it's adventure or what, it's like, dude, this is
Jurassic Park literally says on the box in the tagline that it's an adventure, but we don't need to go back down.
I know, but when we dissected it and the arguments and like what we were talking about and stuff like that, especially when we're like comparing it to Jaws, and we're like, well, the score, it's different. It builds, and it was like the score. I was specifically like in this movie, it's like like some of the scenes, like it's so goofy and it's so light that it's like, I don't know. I didn't really consider this a horror movie. Like, yeah, there's skeletons in it, but they're like goofy as shit.
I'm just going to go ahead and put this out there. There is no conversation that I'm less interested in than whether or not. I'm sick of the horror purity test. I don't give a fuck. This movie has enough horror elements, and it's part of a horror franchise for me to consider it in a horror podcast. I don't really like. Even Jurassic Park, I don't really give a fuck, to be honest. I just want to talk about the movie.
No, I know, but it was just flashes of that. Like, as I was watching this, I was like, there's skeletons in it. And yeah, okay, it's attached to Evil Dead, which in itself was goofy or whatever, but was set around like this haunted cabin and people got obsessed. But I was like, really, like the elements of it that would be like horror, like, oh, like they're skeletons and they're dead. I was like, that's literally like in any fantasy, like movie or even video game, like that's like a trope of like these walking skeletons and stuff like that. So there's nothing that I could point to. I could be like, this is the horror element. Like it really felt like along the lines of The Princess Bride. Like it was comparable to me, honestly.
Well, I think if there's any hair to split on the genre of this movie, I think Rob's right. Like this is a comedy. This is a slapstick comedy before it's anything else. And I think, I don't know. Here's my take on this movie, and I'm just gonna I'm assuming that if you're listening to this podcast, you have a general idea at least of what the plot of this is. Ash goes back in time. He's basically the chosen one, but he doesn't want to be, and he ends up fighting a battle against an evil version of himself who is like taking control of the Deadites, the demons. So that's the baseline of the story. There's a love interest. It's not really that good.
It's not.
But like the thing, this is out of the 3 original Evil Dead movies, this is definitely my least favorite. I don't really like, this is the one that seems so out of place. It's the Back to the Future 3 of horror for me. Like it's like, yeah, I'm willing to go back into the well, and yeah, I can have a good time with it, but it doesn't fit for me, and it doesn't have all of the telltale things that I loved about the first 2. Especially in this case, the second one is my favorite because it is a perfect like middle point of the good parts of both of these movies. It's goofy enough that it has some of those funny beats, but that's offset by some actual like spooky stuff that they put in there, as well as some like just I don't know, eerie tempo and things like that. I like the Evil Dead 2 by far the best, and I like Evil Dead 1 second in that order. So I'm just gonna put that out there as that's where I stand on this. It's never really changed. Every viewing has kind of confirmed that belief for me. And as far as this movie itself, one thing I don't like about it is that it does skimp on the horror elements, and it does make the horror elements more goofy, so goofy to the point where I'm not that interested. It turns like a lot of the humor of Evil Dead 2 comes from Bruce Campbell reacting to insane events happening around him and basically like fighting with his sanity. And that's where the scene with him in the laughing cabin, that's like my favorite scene in the whole series because it's like it's perfect. It's a perfect middle point of everything. And it's like that the humor of that situation comes from him losing his shit or about to lose his shit in this insane situation. In this movie, the humor seems to be they want it to come from like they want him to be Wolverine or an anti-hero, and I don't like I think that they play that off well in Ash versus Evil Dead, where they turn that into but he's a huge blowhard. But in this movie, they almost try and play it straight, almost too straight. He's too good at what he does, and it's like in order for you to like think that him saying like, oh, the only thing you're in charge of is Jack and shit, and Jack left town. Are we supposed to think that's a clever line? And Ash versus Evil Dead, that would definitely meet an eye roll from Pablo, but like everything else is like everything else in this movie is kind of like in that weird quasi area where they want Ash to be something that was never what I wanted him to be, which is like on top of things. In any way, he's still a goofball and he still fucks up, and like that's part and parcel to his character. He's still Don Quixote in that way, but it's not like they try and make him a badass, and he just never was. Like they try to give him badass elements. The badassery that comes out of any Ash scene in the previous two movies has come out of necessity and out of like sheer like mind fuck that he's going through. Like him saying groovy is more of a slip of the brain than it is him trying to sound cool in a montage. This movie, it sounds like the opposite. So that's my biggest complaint with this movie. I just want to put that early.
In this, he's basically an action hero in this movie. And the kind of the irony of this being the least horrific of the Evil Dead trilogy movies is that on IMDb, it is categorized as a comedy horror. They actually put horror for this movie, which it's very much a comedy. So like it's got that whole like Three Stooges vibe going on with like
which is a Sam Raimi classic
and the head knocking and so I mean it's like that level of comedy, which is like very base. And you've got Bruce Campbell who's delivering these one-liners, which is very much sort of like an action hero trope. Like that's kind of what they do. His one-liners are definitely like goofier, but intentionally goofier. But you're right, like even when he does mess up, it's not like catastrophically, and he always manages to get himself out of the situation. And like the girl falls for him and he still just like leaves her ass behind, like he could be less interested, and he just like he goes back to where he comes from just because it's what he knows. And like Ash as a character doesn't evolve. That's sort of like his thing. Like he never changed.
That's what's great is they make that the case in Ash versus Evil Dead. Right. That's one of the things I like about that show is they solidify that, but they do it with every intentionality, with every eye roll in place. You know what I mean? The show knows this, the audience knows this, and they're all winking at each other the whole time. Whereas in this one, it's not really clear that that's what they're aiming for to me.
Right. I feel that. They're kind of sussing it out, and I think the TV show really does like fine tune Ash as a character and how people are supposed to react to him in real time. And this is like I just like the cabin setting. Like I've never been way into fantasy per se. So like in general, I enjoy this movie because it's funny and Ash says dumb things, but I'm not crazy about the setting of like the medieval castle and stuff. One thing that I did find out, and I don't know if this is going to blow up a little bit of your trivia or not, but this was initially intended to be the second installment in the franchise. They were going to call it Medieval, like the Medieval Dead. So,
which is a great title, by the way. And the studio nixed that.
I'm glad they did, so that we got Evil Dead 2.
Well, I just meant the title. Yeah, Evil Dead 2 is essential for me, but the Medieval
Dead
is a much better title for this, and the studio like wouldn't even let them call it Evil Dead 3 Army of Darkness. They forced them to call it just Army of Darkness, just further like differentiating it
right.
previous
This
to
is different.
to the point where it's like like they retcon the first two movies, which is like a common like happened in Evil Dead 2 as well, but to such an extent in this movie that you don't need any of the other movies for Army of Darkness to be for you to be a fan of this movie. Like you really don't need any of the other ones. I'm glad the other ones exist though. I prefer them. So.
Yeah. My favorite part of this movie probably was when like at the end of the movie where he finally goes back to like home and he's back in the S Mart and he's like telling people of his adventure and stuff, and then Deadeye pops up, Hail to the King, shoots or whatever. I was like, man, I wish I just had like another 30 minutes of him like kicking ass in S Mart, For some reason, I just like that setting.
I was kind of surprised at like how thin this movie was. It's essentially 3 acts, and there's really not a whole lot of meat to it, to be honest. Like as like a film or storyline, and it really hangs its hat on. And this is one thing that's like kind of tough for me seeing this for the first time. It's really thin, kind of plot wise or sense wise or anything like that, and it hangs its hat on like Bruce Campbell being like endearing, I guess, or like I don't find this like zany type of comedy endearing. Sometimes I got a good like chuckle out of it. There were a couple that I wrote down. I was like, oh, that was like mildly amusing to me, but I don't find it endearing in a way. And it was something that I struggle with, like Ash vs. the Evil Dead. And so to me, it like was a bit of a slog to get through because there's nothing else to really like hang your hat on other than like some cool special effects. Like this does have like some cool moments of really interesting special effects that are like cool to look at, and then like some gore sometimes. But it's like 3 acts, and he shows up, and it's when he first shows up to the castle, and then he goes on his quest to find like the book, and then the battle at the end. Like that's the movie, and it's like pretty sparse, and it's just really weird. It's not like with the little people, like the little versions of him.
The Gulliver Travel thing.
What is this? Yeah, like I was very surprised and taken back given the reputation of this movie. And I see so many times people are like, we have a Hotline Scream tonight, people post on the Slack. It's like they grew up with this movie. Oh, this reminds me of high school. Oh, the nostalgia. And it's like, I don't have that. And like viewing it for the first time, it's just like, this is not very endearing to me. Like it's silly. It's like zany. And like, I don't find that particularly intriguing myself. Like, I don't know. So like, I just like didn't have like an amazing time with this movie.
So part of like also what made the first two great was that they were so high level, like gore. And this movie does a little of that, like with the pit that just blasts blood out, which is
that
great.
was dope.
I love that.
It is,
but they just kind of like it feels like, and it probably was budgetary, but like they have so many damn like skeletons that have no blood, and there's no visceral pain like you watch when Cheryl's leg gets stabbed with the pencil in Evil Dead 1. Like there's no like gut visceral reaction moments really, and I think that's where the horror really drops, is when it comes to like feeling like your character that you're assigned to, that you're attached to, is actually struggling. It just doesn't feel like that here. This movie, like generally to me, I thought this when I was watching. It's like it seems like a combination of Hercules, the TV show, Hercules or Xena. It's like that mixed with an Iron Maiden album cover and a Three Stooges short. Like if you combine those two things, that's what this movie is. And for me, like only one of those things is like truly something I want to see, which is, or not even like it's just something. The combination just doesn't perfectly work for me. It does work well enough to where I enjoy it and I'll watch it again and again, and I have. Part of that is nostalgia, though. You're right to that point. Like there's a nostalgic element to this. But to, like, even as a kid, even when I first watched this series when I was like 13 or whatever, like the first two were clearly my favorites. And I was like, oh, I guess people like this one. It's good. I enjoy it, but it doesn't really seem like it's even part of the same series, except that Bruce Campbell gets to be Bruce Campbell a little bit, or gets to do the Bruce Campbell thing, which is great. which I find endearing anyway. But that's not really enough for me. I wanted the horror elements to be stronger.
Have you guys ever seen Jason and the Argonauts?
Yeah, many years ago.
I've never seen it, but it's got that like skeleton, like claymated skeleton kind of.
It's got the stop motion skeletons and stuff. Yeah.
Which is where this movie kind of pulls some influence from. I haven't seen it though, so I don't have much to say on that.
That's really like the look of that movie was really like important, just like cinema, like special effects history, and I think that's primarily what they're drawing from in this.
And that's the thing about this, and it's something that, like, kind of like what you touched on with the gore and stuff. So, like, there are moments in this film where it looks really cool and very interesting. Like, when the eye pops up on his shoulder is one thing that stuck out to me. When he does and even I kind of like this humor when he's looking through the books and it, like, sucks his face in or whatever, and his, like, face. Like, that looks great from a practical effects like standpoint. And then even like you said, when I saw the pit of blood, I was like got a little excited and perked up, and I was like, okay, like, you know, I can get behind this element of it. But then the skeletons, like, I'm sure it like pulled from something else and like looked great for the time, but it like now it didn't age well. And like where like the face and the eye like still look great, but like when they're doing that weird like the little people thing and you can like tell it like it just didn't age well and it doesn't look great. And it's like you're like, I agree, like, God, I really wish they would have leaned into the gore, because the skeletons, like the way that they look, like it looks super dated now and not that interesting, and it's like that took away from it a lot too.
The best looking deadites in this movie to me are the ones right at the beginning in the pit, those two, and then the old woman that like casts a warning, and then I guess at the very end in the S-Mart. Those are the best ones. I don't even think like Evil Ash, like as a kid, it did not, like, I was not understanding that was supposed to be Evil Ash. I just thought that was a deadite. And
I mean, you see him like it's him.
I can't really see
he blasts him with a shotgun. But it's not obviously clear after that.
Which they did intentionally so that they could have hand-to-hand battles and it'd be not harder to track.
But like, if you came in halfway through the movie and you didn't see that scene, you'd have no idea. There'd be no way to know.
And then as far as, let's talk about love interest here, because that poor woman, she is set dressing. She might as well be in a lot of these scenes. It sucks because she's like, at the beginning, she clearly has like some sort of like personal like thing against King Henry's men or against the Deadites, as you find out. And then like, as soon as Ash like kills a couple Deadites, everyone in the town, including her, just bend over backwards for him. And it's this weird moment where it's like they really just wanted to get that shot of Bruce being fed grapes by beautiful women in the 18th century or whatever it was, 18th, 13th. But like, it just doesn't make any logical sense. And I guess maybe I'm spoiled because the biggest fantasy thing I watched was Game of Thrones, and despite all things wrong with that, they at least had aspirations towards realism in terms of how people carried themselves and why people did certain things and motivations. And in this show, it's all in service to making Ash the hero that he doesn't want to be. So I mean, and there's a poetry to that, I guess, but it's just so like whiplashy to me to watch her go from hating his guts and spitting in his face to like bending over backwards to like make nice with him, to then like